The Taoist Go by my side was constantly talking. See, I didn't need to take action, everything was done. Attached are some in terms of flattery. This person also counts the amount of money for his temporary help as 500 taels of silver. It's unclear whether he can claim the salary or not, but we also have to see how the monk performs. After jumping into the pirate ship, he also stomped his staff down. The people inside were all thrown into the air by some force without being able to control it. This showed that this person was not. He probably only knows how to knock on the drum and recite Buddha's name. The move is so magical. Hyul Sung continues to transform into an image to deal with those floating people. The method of attack is no different from when Pyo Wol did it. Every time he was hit, his teeth would bleed out. Even though he was so weak, he still took the name of pirates and went out to plunder. One by one, members of that group were defeated. Collapsed in the blink of an eye. Right now there is still a guy who is scared and can't do anything. Not sure how the monk will handle this top guy. It's like so he looked quite scared and couldn't say a word. He threw his shirt aside. Hyul Sung didn't want to do that anymore because his hands would get dirty. In general, with the way of swordsmanship, money like this is relatively easy. The opponents are just very ordinary martial artists who don't have enough strength to confront them. Before returning to his boat, the monk chanted a spell that seemed was to apologize for what he had done. Then he jumped very high and sat down where his comrades were waiting. Holding the bundle of money in his hand, Taoist Go felt very happy for his hard work. Hyul Sung's fig. Namo Amitabha Buddha, it's okay, next time just call me Ban Sangha. But if you don't do it, you'll probably be scolded later. Having finished speaking, the Taoist monk began to ask where that guy who was so greedy for boys had gone. After looking around for a while, the monk also pointed to him and was having a private conversation with Pyo Wol in a certain corner. The handsome guy is coming to the capital. Where are you going? Do you want to come with us? It turns out he's still flirting, but in reality, the male lead is not affected by that beauty. I'm speechless. If it continues like this, we might get caught up in it too. If we were normal people, we would be very scared in this situation, but that guy doesn't seem like he's an ordinary person. It's simple. A nameless pawn wouldn't be able to have a look like that. Increasingly, Ranju creates more and more fake faces as if she wants to invite Pyo Wol. As said at the beginning of the year, I'm not a person who is passionate about lust, so I don't care. A beautiful and kind girl wanted to invite you, but why did you refuse? That's really too much. To repay you for saying that. Hey, Pyo Wol said that no matter how beautiful a rose is, it still has its thorns. That's true, no one gives anyone a free meal. After looking uncomfortable with the answer, then Ranju continued to pretend and think that if she's already beautiful, it's okay to hurt a little. It seems like the more she does that, the more the male lead hates her. Fake, like if he just made a cold face like his, wouldn't it be more attractive? After the fight with the water pirates, Pyo Wol also understood that they collect money through the use of force. Their appearance just now was clearly to show off their prestige and increase their reputation. Chengdu is probably also a place full of conflicts that they often encounter, right? The Na Mi and Tantan factions certainly wouldn't ignore the dispute in the capital, right? Are these people facing difficulties or problems? In general, Pyo Wol is worried that if his strength is not enough to cope with them, death will be inevitable. Therefore, he is preparing everything very carefully and don't want to pay a very high price like 7 years ago. Unfortunately, it's unclear where the surviving members like Go Young San and Yo Wol are now. If there are still those, there is a high possibility that they will join forces and revenge will be easier. After a while of rowing up and down the mountain pass, Pyo Wol and a few new friends arrived at the citadel. It was late afternoon and the worker is trying to finish his work so he can rest after a tiring day. We have to leave tomorrow morning, what about you? Go, the Taoist said. As for the male lead, the immediate future is I also need to find a place to stay overnight because it's late now. It's such a shame that we can't be together anymore. I have something to do myself. In the future, if we meet each other, we will contact everyone. I know I can't bear it, but Ranju also has to do her job and remind Pyo Wol to remember those words. It took a while to calm down. After all, this girl said goodbye to the male lead. It's not clear from now on what he has to do to prepare for revenge. Even though the opponent is in love, It's more or less they also belong to the 9 sects and clans and have a history of hundreds of years of formation. If they touch one person, the entire sect will certainly not be able to leave it alone. So the immediate work needs to be done. Pyo Wol's job was probably observation. Near the wharf there was a small inn, so he went in here to rest and rent a room. It wouldn't be strange if he went into the capital early. If it's too much, it's very likely that the Tauntaun faction will recognize you. As soon as the curtains are opened, the people in the shop are making very curious looks. Some people don't like it, but most of them don't like it. Everyone loves the beauty of the entering guest. It's too special, a beauty that can't be described in words. However, with beauty comes appearance. If it looks good, maybe it will look more like a flower with many thorns than otherwise. As soon as I sat down at the table, the second lady rushed over, not knowing if you wanted to rent a room or order food so I could have some food. Let's prepare. After choosing both of those things, the male protagonist proactively sat down and waited for the other person to bring him food and wine. The surrounding diners began to become more curious. What kind of boy is so beautiful? Maybe even more beautiful than a girl, or is this person not a man? Some people think that it's very possible that it's a girl disguised as a boy, or should we go there and see? It's true that if you look at the appearance, you can't tell if it's male or female. Pyo Wol knows and also hears those whispers, but he doesn't care. As soon as he doesn't get a single piece, he suddenly a big hand slammed on the table. Are you a real man or a fake? Take off your clothes so I can see. This is too rude, and perhaps this ungrateful guy will have to. The ending he received was very painful to watch. While doing so, this guy also introduced himself as the head of the 9 Chan Tu, which is also very classy. Responding to that rude attitude was also it's just an innocuous and unrelated statement from the male lead. I'm betting with my teammates that if you were a woman, you would win 2 taels of silver. If you took the trouble to bet, then what a pity, because the 2 taels of silver will no longer be in my pocket. After hearing this sentence, he immediately knew that the other person was a man, but he didn't believe it. People nearby were shouting hoarsely, demanding that he take off his clothes to check to find out that he was a man. Or a girl. If the male lead agrees to do it, they will invite him a cup of wine. Without having to say those words, this guy is also very interested because of his magical beauty. Right in front of my eyes. It's true that only when you die do you know you're really dead. Pyo Wol started to show no mercy and shot the chopstick right into his face. As I said before, what's so beautiful? Then it would really be very dangerous. That saying also applies to this situation, and more specifically, one of the other person's eyes is gone. Seeing that terrible thing, the criminals, the cheering group at that time, could no longer say anything. They seemed scared because of being teased, but without hesitation they stabbed into someone else's eyes. How miserable. They have eyes but are like, no, if that's the case, wouldn't it be better for me to go and get the other eye? Obviously this is not possible, so he is scared and raises his hand to stop it. Everything was too late from the moment that guy hit the table and ruined all of the male lead's food. In just a moment the remaining chopsticks were stuck straight into this guy's pupils. That's beautiful, it's so evil, everyone will think like that. If you don't take it off, then why are you so tense? So Pyo Wol tried to help this guy go from being partially blind to completely blind. Can't blame him because he was the one who was blind. Was the one who caused it himself. One by one, his teammates sitting nearby stood up and expressed anger. They thought that doing that was too much, there was no need to blind them all. Other people's children's eyes. If you have done this, then you need to do it until the end. These are Pyo Wol's thoughts. He took a basket of chopsticks nearby and rushed to poke them all in the eyes. There was not a single guy who could escape the screams that rang out. It was true that just one act of caressing caused the entire flock of chickens to have their throats slit. Those who were not involved were cowered in one place and thought that his skills were too fast and he didn't know what he was eating to be so strong. You have to know how to take responsibility for what you've done, right? Ranju's group has also arrived at this time, reached the center of the capital. This place is quite busy and crowded with people buying and selling. Not only that, but there are often many martial artists passing by. It's fair to say that there are many. It's not true, but there are too many. From ancient times until now, almost all of those martial artists belong to the Tauntaun sect. The atmosphere here is really exciting, isn't it? Taoist Go's voice rang out. Half of the people passing by on the street were wearing weapons. If you say so, then this is a great opportunity for us. What? Other people's misfortune is an opportunity for us. What tragedy Amitabha Buddha. After hearing those nonsense words, Ranju immediately dismissed it. Girls started asking which of the three was the sentimental one. There was no need to hesitate. The monk immediately pointed at the Taoist and said that he was an introvert. Don't stay there and talk nonsense, go inside, we've arrived. Then, after those words, the three entered a restaurant. As soon as they saw the boss, this woman's face began to become more cheerful. Ranju had no need to respect her. No matter what, he rushed in to hug and kiss his lips and kiss his cheeks and all. Seeing how innocent the deputy leader was still, the leader made a face as if he had been used to this for a long time. A man with the delicate face and cumbersome outfit on the screen is Zhang Muyang, the leader of the Black Cloud group. The Taoists and monks are more polite and bow to the group leader. In response to the sincere greetings in that case, he did not hesitate to stand up and greet him back. The reason the four of them gathered together was to make a living. That's what they made money for, is to use force to deal with sects or families that need military force. It's not clear what Go Taoist said before that he thinks we really have to do that or not. In response to this person's question, Zhang Muyang made a calm face. What's wrong with the Taoist, or do you feel pressured? If that's the case, you can just leave. In reality, these are just jokes because the amount of money earned is too large, so no one wants to refuse. The more important reason why Taoist Go is hesitant is because related to Tan Tan and Ma sects. Doesn't everyone know that those two sects have been opposing each other since 7 years ago? Although I don't know why, the past years have been both bright and dark. There is a conflict. Because they are the two most powerful forces in Sichuan, fighting will inevitably lead to a division of power in this place. According to the leader of the group, he was quite certain that if there was a war, it would most likely be a terrible battle. After all, why do those two sects have to confront each other? Ranju said. Regarding this question, Zhang Muyang believes that it is not necessary to know what to do. The reason why they are enemies is no longer important. The important thing is that the opportunity for us to achieve our dreams has come. It's not clear what the group leader's dream is, but one thing is certain. The word power will always be associated with this person. Let's ignore those things for now. Let's find out what the male protagonist is doing. What to do right now? Since early morning, he has been preparing his clothes after a tiring night's rest. Killing people is something he is used to, so he feels quite comfortable in his heart without any problems. Nothing. Looking more closely, every step, gait and expression looks too much like a girl's, so it's only natural that the people in that category lost their lives. As soon as they saw the guest in this special case, the second young man did not show any fear at all. On the contrary, he felt very interested in the person in front of him. Behind that beautiful appearance, he was hiding such terrifying cruelty? Actually, I like it and don't like it, I don't know what to think anymore. While thinking about this, Pyo Wol was in front of me and spoke up. The male lead asked who understood here. Clearest about the internal situation of Sichuan. It seems that his mind is not very quick, so I need you to explain more clearly. What I mean is the situation between the sects. Hearing that sentence, he immediately asked the male protagonist to ask if he wanted to know anything. Go straight out of here and turn left and you will see the Fire Dragon Bang in the guild. Listen, seeing the name Fire Dragon Bang, Pyo Wol also felt quite curious. A long time ago, the soldiers of Sichuan City gathered and created a sect. The sects in Sichuan were all we have been doing business with the Fire Dragon clan for a long time. If you have something to ask, go to the factory and buy a suitable weapon and that clan will answer a question appropriate to the value of that weapon. Pyo Wol doesn't have any money and doesn't know how he will buy weapons in exchange for information. Well, I don't know how the male protagonist still goes to the smithy. Even before stepping foot in the door, there are a lot of metallic sounds. There's only one young man around Pyo Wol's age working hard. It's so strange why metal is emitting. The sound was as clear as the sound of flowing water. While watching from afar, someone loudly came and cursed what the hell the blacksmith was doing. Who told you that? Are you allowed to use the hammer as you please? I already told you that you absolutely must not touch the hammer here without my permission." After saying that, this person immediately kicked me a few times and pointed to go do some chores around the house. Go. Even when he was abused to such an extent, the blacksmith still endured it silently. This was just his appearance, but when looking at his face, it didn't seem like he was suffering at all. "Temporarily, you will be banned from entering this place until I call you in. Please stay outside and do some chores." It's so frustrating. Why did the owner accept a guy like him? Muttering here, this person turned to look at the male lead. "I didn't know there were guests coming, so I showed a really embarrassed look." What did the guests come to buy? Not to mention his own needs, he immediately asked if there was something wrong with the person just now. "I heard that he was a descendant of the Tang sect, but he kept picking up a hammer to forge things while without my permission." If you are a descendant of that sect, you are not allowed to hold a hammer and sickle. When receiving this question, the other person immediately knows that this is the first time the male protagonist has come to Sichuan City. He later recounted that that sect was a sect that had been destroyed because in the previous war they had sided with the demon sect. That's why the sect was destroyed. The sect was called the Ancient Golden First Human Wind Sect. From then on, its power became increasingly weaker and the irreversible consequence was the sect's destruction. For the sects in Tantu, crossing the sect is a traitor. Therefore, any workshop or smithy will not impart secrets to people related to that sect. The reason is that everyone is afraid of repeating it. Situation like in the past. After hearing this story, the male protagonist felt that it was not worth it because his descendants had to live with the sins that their ancestors committed long ago. Then who was the one who forced them to choose their side? Demon teachings are all self-inflicted. Putting aside that cliché, this person also asked him what item he wanted to receive. Knowing that this customer needed to buy swords, he invited them inside to check the goods. Lately, it seems like there are a lot of people ordering weapons, right? After Na Mi and Tan Tan officially declared war, the number of orders has doubled. The atmosphere in Sichuan Citadel has become tense. On the contrary, this is a business opportunity for them. Now everyone in the factories is not in the spirit to manufacture weapons ordered by the sects. It turns out that while the male protagonist was absent from the Wanderer, both other sects they had all been secretly preparing for war for a long time. Not sure if he had chosen a good item or not, a moment later Dang Sochu continued to be beaten, crushed by the central region with dirty blood in it. "Hey, I have to beat you to death. Your family will die like that sect, you idiot who doesn't know what order is. Why do you dare to touch the hammer without permission? Our permission?" It's so miserable that this person didn't do anything but has to endure everything. Feeling so happy about this situation that the male lead threw a small knife straight in front of him. Dang Sochu's face. As expected, humans are more brutal than animals, right? Once you give in, they will torture you to death. Hearing those words, he immediately turned his eyes to the person who had just finished speaking. If you get used to it, then continue to live as lowly as an animal. Although this saying is very hard to hear, it is very accurate for Dang Sochu's situation. Is it a house? Do you just want to live forever like this? This is a very difficult question to answer and it is not easy to be in his situation. The voice of one of the bullies pointed directly at Pyo Wol. "Don't talk nonsense anymore, go away quickly. This is our Fire Dragon Gang's internal business." Ignoring those threats, the male protagonist still asked Dang Sochu how he planned to live. He still doesn't know what to do because there are too many opposing thoughts in his head. Is that half male, half female guy disregarding our words? Immediately from below Dang Sochu jumped up and bit his neck like a rabid dog. This was his revenge after being bullied so many times. The other guy looked in pain and cursed wildly and couldn't do anything. Because he only had a mouth, he moved his hand to Dang Sochu and almost skewered one of his eyes. The oppression for so long was released. A fierce face appeared and everyone looked scared. The two guys watching didn't know how to help the brothers anymore but just kept cursing that Dang Sochu was a dog or something like the slightest bit of biting someone. So, Dang Sochu's pupils widened towards them again, full of anger. "Since when have you treated me like a human being? You only consider me an animal. Do you think you will be safe after causing all this? Just do as you want, I'm tired of being beaten by you for no reason. However, keep in mind that I will hunt down those who dare to touch me again." After receiving this response, the three didn't dare to say anything anymore and promised that they would never let this matter go. Dang Sochu really just wanted to bite the other two guys to satisfy them. However, he couldn't do that anymore. Because he was beaten too much, his body was exhausted and fainted. Fortunately, Pyo Wol had not left yet, so he quickly caught him. That withered body. It is also possible that this meeting will be a fateful encounter between two people and will change Dang Sochu. A moment later he had to ask where the house address was so he could give it to her. Come back to rest. The house looks very tattered, deep in a forest, and no one passes by much. The door opens and there is not a single valuable object inside. It's so miserable for this blacksmith who works in a place where he's abused and doesn't earn enough to feed himself. Feeling that the other person seems to be okay, Pyo Wol looks around one turn. After that, he gave a meaningful compliment that this house is good. After hearing those words, Dang Sochu thought that this person was making fun of his place, where this is already a magnificent place for me. Where I lived before, there were only snakes and snakes. Lying is just right, but do you think I will be comforted when I hear such words? Actually, the male lead was telling the truth, it wasn't a joke. If Dang Sochu had experienced it, he would have believed it right away. Seeing the back of his benefactor leaving, he continued to ask where he was going. Are you naturally very concerned about other people's affairs? Caring about other people's affairs is a habit of some people, isn't it? So these are the moments of living as a human being of Dang Sochu. There are people who owe me, those people took advantage of me, abandoned them, and even wanted to kill them. These are Pyo Wol's words. After listening, he understood that his benefactor was looking for revenge. Compared to what they did, revenge was too light and had to make them live worse than death. The male protagonist's heart. He was silent for a long time and then frankly said that his opponents were the Tan Tan and Na Min sects, in addition to a few sects that depended on them. It was crazy alone. Are you planning to fight against all the forces in Sichuan? It's also possible that you're crazy, so please lend me that small sword or sell it to me. Receiving that question, Dang Sochu thought that how could this piece of trash be useful for revenge? Having finished speaking, this person also struggled to find something, making the male protagonist look confused. If you use it for revenge, you will die before it is used. Having finished speaking, he turned around and threw a relatively important object to Pyo Wol. After removing the hiding cloth, it also appeared that the weapons were very sharp. The chroma was balanced and in terms of weight, everything is perfect. This must have been very difficult to make by yourself. It's okay because it's a sneaky thing to make, so it doesn't take much time and isn't tiring at all. Pyo Wol feels bad because if I take away this person's defense, won't you say you have to take revenge on the Tan Tan sect and the Na Mi sect? The reason is that our sect collapsed like this because of them. Even though I don't know much about it, I will never forgive those who have affected my sect in the past. In the past, you were the first person to tell me not to put up with that anymore. It turns out the male lead was the one who created the will to fight oppression for Dang Sochu. He smiled. Feel satisfied and consider receiving this precious thing. Then before leaving, you also need to check to see if this thing is really helpful or effective for you. A lot of useless wires. The pictures were released as if they were spider silk threads. If this hadn't been done, surely no one would have known that the weapon came from the male lead's body. 8 small knives. He connects with the strings and creates an extremely perfect weapon. It seems like they were born for each other, so the movements are becoming very sharp. The power is also terrible and causes harm. So there was a moment of fear for Dang Sochu. Surely this thing will take the lives of hundreds of people in Na Mi and Tan Tan. Even though they chose a weapon from the fire dragon Bang, but maybe using this object is the most suitable. It's rare to have peaceful moments like this. Dang Sochu needs to feel it for a long time. His eyes looked up to see the magic of his own hands. Mine was created and mixed with Pyo Wol's deadly beauty. In it, it's like naturally moving raindrops, so my eyes absolutely cannot go wrong. These are the male protagonist's thoughts, and from now on he will call it Yu Lin Tri and will also be the owner of this thing. Before leaving, the male protagonist said that he is Pyo Wol. Every time he hears my name he will probably it reminds me of an endless ghost. This is also a fate, so perhaps sooner or later the two will become brothers. Hearing that name, Dang Sochu's hands clasped together. The ruler hopes that you will be famous throughout Sichuan province. After that, the male lead and his friend parted ways. Right now at an inn in the center of the capital, Bok Hofong. A beautiful woman is surrounded by many martial artists because of her stunning beauty. Sincerely thank you all for agreeing to this young lady's invitation today. Truly a beauty as beautiful as a flower and like a jade, making so many hearts sob. Hearing that sweet voice, countless compliments rang out. Since it was an invitation from the young lady, then it must be true. Of course we have to run, right everyone, we are ready to be by your side at any time. Due to pressure from the Tan faction, the situation in Bagua Fuang is not very good, but thanks to all of you who have helped so enthusiastically, I can probably breathe a sigh of relief. This is a very deep thank you that has made those girl-hungry guys become even crazier. We will protect Bagua Fuang, no matter how strong the citadel is, we cannot use force to overwhelm the citadel. The Buddha's mouth said that, but in the heart of the beautiful woman, everything was different. All men are the same, just snobs. After thinking about it, I started to tell a lot of stories to get these guys on my side. Lately due to the migration the movement of the Tan sect was very unusual, so the headquarters ordered it. Summoned me, so maybe next time I won't be able to appear here anymore. After hearing this, everyone shouted and wanted to join Na Am I. Can I climb to the top of the mountain for you? A group of people who only care about my beauty and I will direct them like a beautiful and brilliant flower. What an unpredictable and scheming person who knows how to take advantage of his strengths. In fact, the intention of this beautiful woman was to attract martial artists to Na Mi's side to fight against the Qingcheng sect. After that, there was nothing more to do, so these people immediately left to prepare. Bag. Everywhere I go, the scent wafts in the wind, like an enchanting drug. Another man took advantage of this time and came forward to flirt a bit. Today is truly a good time. Such a meaningful time. The other person's ears almost couldn't hear that sentence after seeing a very special man. That person is none other than our Pyo Wol. Sky-high appearance, heart-touching eyes, this is what can temporarily describe his beauty. This person's heart is feeling that such red eyes are beautiful. How? Just like that, it has some terrible attraction and this woman proactively approaches without being able to control it. The people behind her are becoming surprised because they didn't think they could fall in love with a guy. To such a degree. If we were to judge more accurately, perhaps we would understand whether this is the true love of our life or not. Pyo Wol was also a bit surprised because he didn't understand what the other person wanted to do to him. More. It seems like this is the first time I meet you here, right? This is a place where the four seas gather in one direction, so we should introduce ourselves to get acquainted, right? I am Wu Son. Can I ask about the young knight's identity? Because of his honest personality, the male lead did not hide his name and introduced himself as Pyo Wol. So it was Pyo Wol, the young knight, or is he also a martial artist? Martial artist or not, it doesn't matter, but the male lead wants to ask why the other person met him. Is there a reason why you can't answer? Pyo Wol believes that when we first meet, we should not talk too much about private things. Another martial artist immediately ran over to criticize his way of speaking. You're talking to the lady in such a way that you don't even ask quickly. Apologize now. The two words sorry are something very noble and are not in the male lead's dictionary. Please kneel down and apologize sincerely right now for me. If you can't do that, we certainly won't leave you alone. If you don't leave it alone, whatever you're planning to do, even if you're blind to the extreme, at least you know when you need it. Jumped up and down. His face began to wrinkle and became angry. Right after that, a servant brought his sword as if he wanted to penetrate the male protagonist. So, picking up the weapon, he quickly pulled it out and pointed it straight at the male lead's face, thinking that he had just insulted him. It was truly unforgivable, and this statement was also accompanied by a very serious action. Dangerous to his life. Wanderers are truly dangerous. Even if they want to stay still, they will never be comfortable. Just as that long sword was about to point at the seal, screams rang out. Up. That sound was from a few guys who were lusting after women nearby and had a bad voice to warn their comrades not to do that in front of the young lady. Pyo Wol saw the movement of the blade and his body automatically dodged. One side looks very magical. That's a killer move that I didn't expect a woman could do like that. What the hell is going on? Why was he able to avoid my attack? Only moving a few steps was able to pull off that action. This guy's face began to radiate a lot of color and he couldn't believe something like that would happen here. As a person with martial arts skills, the energy from his dantian flowed out and mixed with the sharp blade. Onlookers thought that it was Tan Tan Fai's lightning sword technique, which seemed to be the seventh form. The last move is the most cruel. Those who guessed it were correct and were clearly planning to kill the opponent. In general, his intention was partly to kill people and also to show off his talent. With Wu Sonha a little bit. The speed is much faster than the first move. This is the behavior of the righteous faction that is even worse than a relative who is an assassin like Pyo Wol. The sharp tip of the sword is followed by countless lightning rays emitting a yellow ray of light towards the male protagonist. It looks so magical, but to him it doesn't mean anything at all. Still, that old killer move couldn't even touch a hair. By this time, that guy must have realized for himself how different the strengths of the two sides are. It's quite troublesome. So Pyo Wol wants to quickly handle it, so he has a bigger job to do than deal with Na Mi and Tan Tan. After the guy failed, he turned around and continued to use another sword move. Honestly, the male lead has given in as much as he can, so why does this guy still try to do the impossible? At this moment, the girl lover still maintains the mindset of wanting to kill Pyo Wol. He grabbed the long sword and stabbed him hard from behind. Dozens of sharp slashes, but it was like Pyo Wol had eyes in the back of his head. He didn't do anything but just slowly moved forward as if it was nothing. That guy chopped up and down sideways and all kinds of things, but he did it until his hands were tired. I really don't understand the final form of Thunder Sword. Could he be that weak? If he can't do this, Tan Tan's martial arts student will definitely be ashamed of Wu Sonha. Pyo Wol took the initiative to approach this beautiful woman. With a cold look that made her sob. It was like meeting a fairy. Wu Sonha had never seen a man so beautiful to the point of perfection. That dumb guy still didn't give up. Now he deliberately approached again. This time Pyo Wol must have felt very annoyed. He leaned over and made a scary look. Is that all you have? Accompanying those words is a strange animation with sizzling sounds echoing out. It's not clear what the male lead's martial arts skills are, but he only needs to use 2 fingers. Hands to suppress him. There were no invisible ropes and ghostly pools thrown out like usual. After keeping that weak body in the air for a while, Pyo Wol slammed his face down hard. This is what you call showing flirtation with beautiful women, right? Although it happened very quickly, in Sonha's eyes it was very slow. That guy must have fainted, and even the hard tile floor the other bridge also cracked into dozens of pieces. After finishing his work, he stood up and continued to look in the direction of the lady that many men worshipped in Bakhwa Ward. Sonha regained her spirit. She also let out a few words of begging to please calm down, young hero Pyo Wol. The remaining people were about to rush in, but she also raised her hand to stop her as if she was going to let me handle it. With a look on her face. With so many innocent sins, Sonha believes that the person who was beaten did not have any bad intentions. It was just because he was too worried about this young lady that he came up with such an extreme way. It was people are always responsible for their own actions. Pyo Wol replied. Of course that's the case, so I think I have to take this responsibility on his behalf. It's clear how Wu Sonha will be responsible for the male lead. The young men in the back are screaming that this is not okay. Young lady, it would be better for us to risk our lives to fight. In this situation, the male lead has read the entire intention of the other woman. That's quite good. She knows how to make the most of what she has. Both are equally beautiful, and surely that there is no one who would not want to own a man who is so beautiful to perfection. On the contrary, the male lead also really wants to learn all the curves on the body of the most beautiful beauty in Bakhwa Ward. It's unclear what the two said to each other and how they did it after that. The room became a mess with clothes thrown everywhere. The young couple must have had a very rough fight. Just after 2 rounds of temporary rest, Wu Sonha started to coo again. This guy spoke in a weak and sweet voice asking for the male lead's help. Can this young man help? Whether this thing can be done or not with that ability, I can do it. Pyo Wol thinks that I have to hear the whole thing first to decide whether to do it or not. Neither. I don't know what it is, but I only saw Sonha mention the name Nam Ho-san. It turns out she really wanted to borrow the male lead's hand to kill the young master of the Thundergate. Not long ago, the owner of the Thundergate appeared and forced me to make a marriage contract. If they refuse that marriage, they will threaten to help the Qingcheng sect. Because of this, the Bok Hua Fuang sect and the Namai sect have fallen into an awkward situation. Even if we fail, it doesn't matter. What does it matter to Bok Hua Fuang? Have you already thought it all through? If you can kill Nam Ho-san, this young lady's Namai relatives will definitely repay you well. Speaking of you, Sonha introduced this person as the eldest disciple of the eldest mother Na Mi. Jianghu is my blood relative. It turns out that Sonha's biological grandmother is the person who the male lead had gouged out one eye in the past. He also has a grudge against that cruel woman, so of course this cannot be helped. Surely if he knew the truth, Sonha would regret it. It's very likely that I've had sex with this person. It's not clear whether Pyo Wol did it or not, but there's a high possibility that the fate of the young master of the Thundergate sect has been decided. Right now at Dai Quang Min Sun Dai, Na Mi Fi's headquarters. Ran Ju and his men are going there because there is a deal with Go Hua Mrs. The subordinates following are feeling very worried. If they lose in the battle with Tan Tan, everything will be lost. They understand well enough where their fate will go if they are pushed off this mountain. It turns out that the mercenaries' Black Cloud group decided to choose Na Mi's side instead of Tan Tan's. Ran Ju is also the deputy head of the union and temporarily represents the salary section to negotiate this matter with the head of Na Mi sect. Zheng Hua. After all these years, he has also changed a bit and is no longer old, but became sharper looking. Soul Ran is still the same with a very unique beauty of hers. She is always on top of all the disciples. Finally, the old crow Go Hua. This lady is getting older how much but still retains its extreme cruelty over the years. This group of people who always sell their lives for money will never do anything for free, so please give a number. You have to work hard and be paid well. Ran Ju did not deny that. Feeling that the other person was too rude, the sect leader asked to quickly say how much money he wanted. The number given by the deputy leader. It's not a small thing because she wanted to receive 500,000 taels of gold after finishing her work. At first, Na Mi's disciples shouted that the Black Cloud group was robbing in broad daylight or something. I don't need to listen to them anymore, master. If we accept, our sect will become a laughing stock in this society. These talkative bunch talk too much, so Go Hua has to shout to calm down. To her, the Ma sect's dignity cannot speak up to superiors like that. It looks really unsightly. Do you think that our Ma sect will accept the offer? Is that so? With 500,000 taels of gold, I can hire up to a dozen troops to be my minions. Ran Ju understands and thinks that if you hire, you can hire, but how can there be any team stronger than the Black Cloud group? Go Hua's grandmother didn't think so and she just wanted to refuse because the price was a bit high. Maybe our other members are on their way to Tan Tan Mountain right now. Actually, if you can't do business with Na Mi, then Tan Tan is not a bad choice. Na Mi's sect leader, in a different sense, thinks that Hao Van group wants to catch a fish with 2 hands and eat a fish with 2 heads. This is impossible. Acceptable. She immediately used her palm to attack her 2 business partners. Even though she was old, she was not an ordinary 80-year-old woman. If she could eat that palm's power, both the deputy leader and the men all coughed and coughed, vomiting a mouthful of blood. Tell the truth, I don't think you need 500,000 taels of gold. Don't be cunning and say frankly the price you really want to go. Ran Ju tried to stand up and was really sinister. The cruel bastard of Na Mi's sect leader was second to none. We traded in force. So I will do what the lessee requests as long as the price is guaranteed to be reasonable. Maybe Tantan Phi is also negotiating like I said. Go Hua, you think that group has the upper hand. That's better than my family, so I'm sure there will be many options, so I don't have to choose the Black Cloud group. I really want to behead these 2. But I don't know when the war will break out, so it's better than anyone else. These are also extremely broad ideas and Na Mi will probably accept this number. These women are weak and I just want to have more people on my side when fighting. This time Zheng Hua was assigned the task of leading and instructing the work of the Black Cloud group. It's unclear what they discussed further after that. There's a lot of cursing in the center of the capital. It's such a terrible transaction, but even if you can't do it, why would you ask for so much money to do the transaction? After the transaction, you'll probably die. In the end, you have to exhaust all the money. If we had to deal with everything, our souls will almost be lost. You see, right, those 2 big warehouses full of grain, purchased and piled up, we had karma in our past lives. Fate with them? Why is that so? I think they will be more helpful than harmful? Since early morning, Pyo Wol has been eating cakes, drinking tea and observing the surrounding movements like every day. Before taking action, he also needs to find out which side is the enemy and which side is the friend of the 2 subjects. The other faction. Soon we will be followed. At the inn right now, Jang Meryong is yawning and waiting for his subordinates on the way back. Are you guys doing well? The wire connecting Na Mi and Tan Tan is really tiring. I was thinking about retiring as soon as this was over when Taoist Go walked into the room. I was quite surprised when I saw my subordinates. Why did I turn back halfway? I was originally planning to return yesterday, but I met someone before that. I said it a few days ago, but I happened to meet and accompany you. The same person came here. According to Taoist Go's opinion, he met and interacted with Pyo Wol. Jang Meryong understood that story as the unusual-looking person who happened to meet again in Sichuan Y. This statement makes it sound like the group leader is very concerned about the male lead. There's nothing special, it's just that I'm too upset. Contacting Na Mi and the city is too much. Fatigue easily makes people sensitive. If that's your intuition, then this is not something to be lightly ignored, the Taoist mutters. Anyway, what's the name? That's not a normal person, so I was quite curious. It turned out that both of them were curious about Pyo Wol, not sure if it was the form or the martial arts position. While talking, a voice spoke. A familiar sound rang out. So Ranju, the deputy leader of the delegation, was successful in negotiating business with Na Mi Phi. This time was quite important, so Mrs. Go Hua personally instructed the 2 of you. The strongest death appeared. Seeing the business partner, Jang Meryong quickly stood up and bowed. The leader of the Black Cloud Group greeted the distinguished guests from Na Mi. Still the basic details Zheng Hua and Sol Ren politely greeted back. First disciple coming here directly means that you have accepted the terms of transaction with us, right? Zheng Hua doesn't think so. She thinks that after discussing it again, she will decide whether to sign or not. If you guys dare to deceive us, be careful and pay a very high price. In response to those cruel words, Jang Meryong still showed a fake smile. We are ready for anything. Zheng Hua is really narrow-minded and can be described as a mini-version Go Hua's grandmother. Feeling like there was nothing more, the host asked the guests to go inside to discuss the terms and conditions. After a while, it was unclear how Na Mi's voice sounded. How dare you claim the right to foreign trade? What you should be discussing is money and material things. Don't be so greedy and throw away the tray like that. I don't think this is excessive at all. If Na Mi fails in this Sichuan land, that is entirely possible, right? In contrast to his senior sister's anger, Sol Ren always appeared calm to the point of being scary. Zheng Hua's anger reached such a peak that it wanted to scratch Captain Hack's delicate face. And so on. Even though that's the case, he's not afraid at all, and this shows that his strength is not inferior to this second strongest disciple Na Mi. A little bit of Go Hua's image is showing on Zheng Hua's face. If it continues to be tense like this, it will only make Jang Meryong understand that Na Mi is now in a tight spot and is in dire need of human resources. The negotiation has entered a dead end. It's a dead end when both sides can't have a common voice. If that's the case, then I will give in for the sake of foreign trade, so I don't need 500,000 taels of gold anymore, and I don't need to compensate this tea table either. Jang Meryong still calmly said, "Please help me find a place near the Western Highlands." Is this your real purpose, or do you want to go there to settle down? You also know that we are wanderers. No sect wants to stay in their area. This is also true, and even Ma does not like having mercenaries in her area. So we will create an area near the Western Plateau away from the Ma faction. It turned out that the group leader's intention was not to retire, but rather he wanted to create his own sect to avoid being known as a hired killer. Jang Meryong smiled fakely. If only he wanted to. So, do you guys agree or not? If you accept it right away, they will take action, but it will most likely become a big burden in the near future. However, using this group as a shield is not a bad plan. Jianghua was thinking like that in his mind. If it could take away the effort of those Tantan people, that would be great. Even if he loses. Going to a part of the land reserved for mercenaries to find a place to live is not too difficult. After thinking about it enough, she sighed and accepted Zhang Muyang's proposal. Hearing those words, the delegation leader smiled with satisfaction because everything had worked out. If the opponent is honest, he probably won't negotiate so easily. Mi is really weak. To make sure, he wanted to write a contract, but Jianghua was clever and took advantage of his reputation. I came out to make sure. I don't understand why Seoul Ran was so quiet today, but the more she was like that, the more viewers secretly admired her beauty. Before leaving, Jianghua planned I had to go to Bakhua Ward to discuss some things because that's Wu Sonha's workplace. While talking about this, Ranju kicked the door in from outside with a very hasty look. It must have been there's some hot news, that's why this person is showing such an attitude. No matter what, the vice leader has to stay calm, there's no telling what's going on. All three looked surprised, because he heard the news that the young master of Loi Am Mon had been assassinated. This is not a matter of much concern, but Jianghua was quite attentive as he wanted to know about the information that the assassin seemed to have not yet captured the Loi Am Mon. Believed that this action was caused by the Tantan sect. Time passed until evening, the sun gradually set on Tantan Mountain. People from the Loi Am sect were coming to this sect to claim their rights. Tai Niem pretends to be the sect master and will never let this matter be resolved smoothly. The people in Tantan are too busy studying Nguyen Tui Thien Tun and all that. So they don't know what the situation is outside. They don't understand what Loi Am Mon is doing here in such a scary appearance. Moreover, everyone has different looks and equipment. Armed to the teeth. The real Il Muryang had to show up to meet his counterpart to see what was wrong with him doing such a thing. This person himself did not know, and his attitude was considered dissatisfied just a little bit. It's too much to bring someone here and then get angry, but it can't be too much to the point of dragging the coffin along. The Tai Mon master's facial veins were all exposed and he responded to the questions because he really wanted to Tantan answer for me. Please tell the story clearly. What is the reason why this coffin was brought here? No need to elaborate. Tai Niem pointed out that there was someone lying inside and is my favorite disciple. I would like to express my deep condolences for that misfortune, but that has nothing to do with Tantan. This sentence is as if it broke a glass. It's so full of wretched information. Do you really not know anything? The real Il Muryang really doesn't understand and he still calmly wants the other person to explain everything. It would be better. If it had come to this, perhaps the other sect master couldn't hesitate any longer. He grabbed the precious sword and pushed the coffin lid hard. Inside this is the ruined body of the young master of the Thunder Gate Nam Ho San. If you look closely, the wounds on your body are all caused by Tantan's 712 broken swords. Seeing that image, if the head disciple doesn't believe it, it's impossible because he is the one who understands that sword move better than anyone else. Even though you've seen it, you still deny it, so why did my disciple die because of that sword attack? Do you understand? There is no way the culprit could be someone outside the Tantan sect. In Tai Niem Ho's mind, the reason for the young master's death was most likely due to marrying Sonha in Bakhua Ward. It's clear that Tantan is secretly afraid that I will form a friendly relationship with the Na Mi sect and act first. In the face of this incident, the sect leader still tried to keep the other person calm. Nothing happened. For now, let's just eat cake and drink tea and discuss everything together. How can we be like that? The disciple who died because of Tantan's swordsmanship, Tai Niem Ho, kept repeating the words of swordsmanship. There's real evidence, but what are you guys trying to find out? Please explain properly. Pyo Wol is really a clever schemer when he just stole it while fighting with Tantan. It was even applied to Nam Ho San's body. Things were pushed too far, so Elder Ching Cheng also had to show his face. Dare to come to my sect and still be so arrogant. Why is this guy absolutely unforgivable? Having finished speaking, he rushed forward and gave the other sect master a few shots despite the sect head brother's efforts to stop him. The speed was as fast as a wind and Tai Niem Ho promptly pulled out his sword to fight. Since the day he lost Wu Gun Sang, Elder Ching Cheng has changed completely as if he were a different person. He is said to have acted very cruelly and suddenly. A typical example is using a killer move on the body of the master of the sect, Thunder Sound. Being hit by that terrifying force, Tai Niem Ho cried out in sorrow and immediately lost his spirit. I don't know, live or die, but in ignorance there is no regret. On the contrary, he also declared that Tan Tan is not a circus where anyone who wants to come can come. Ilmer Yang, the true man cannot stop it, but I also tried to calm down my junior brother's anger. Why did he attack someone? Not bothering to respond, the sect leader made a sullen face and turned around to leave. They didn't give him permission. I've already jumped up and down after looking at the situation, so it's not too late to find out everything. Since when did junior brother become like that? He's so aggressive and cruel. He was cold before. But it wasn't that violent. After seeing that cruel man leave, a few of Thunder's disciples ran over in fear to ask about the sect master's situation. Tai Niem Ho spit out a few mouthfuls of blood and then cursed Chingcheng for being a wretched sect that oppresses with force so that people cannot give any criticism. This statement is somewhat reasonable, no matter who it is. Tantan's actions were like that, and Loi Yinman's view of the incident was not too much. The real Ilmer Yang asked his people to let them take shelter after waiting for the master to calm down. For a while. Then he sent someone to call Tan Mong to entrust the job. After making a great achievement in catching the killer, this guy also had a bit of a foothold among the disciples and now works is to go find out the situation in the center of the capital. Time passed again until late at night. Right now at the inn where Pyo Wol was staying and waiting for the opportunity to take revenge. The guests in the nearby rooms were all talking about Tan Tan beating people to death by Loi Yin. They didn't really believe it because martial arts could be faked if it was a high-caliber expert. Some people argue that the more advanced the martial arts are, the more unique traces will be left behind. It is absolutely impossible to simulate the traces of 72 broken swords. If so, the Tan Tan sect is truly miserable. Okay, at this rate, maybe the whole capital will shake with blood and bones. Pyo Wol has heard everything, and perhaps his plan to stab people with rice is very reasonable. We have to make these two despicable sects fight with each other. In the end, use a basket to scoop it all up to save effort. Just as I was excited about what I just did, Wu Sonha came in. And immediately asked how Pyo Wol could do that. The male lead seemed puzzled by the other woman's impolite attitude. I mean the death of Nam Ho San of Loi M Mon Win. What tricks did they use to disguise themselves as the perpetrator? Pyo Wol did not deny that he was the murderer. Is it important who did such a thing? This is him dead, right? As he spoke, he made more and more deliberate actions to arouse Sonha's desire. As if she had a terrible enchanting power, she turned her face to him. Let the other person do whatever they want. It's true that the male lead is not only good at martial arts but also has a strong appearance that has made him a very special name. Suddenly Sonha gave up the opportunity to that's why I said that it might be difficult for me to see you again for the time being because a distinguished guest is coming, so I won't be able to be absent. Hearing that reason, the male lead also needs the other person to explain it to him in more detail. I've said it before, my current disciple Na Mi brought another junior sister to Bok Hwa Ward. That person's personality is a bit difficult, so you need to directly interpret it. According to Sonha, Jianghu came here to hire a group of people called the Black Cloud Group. It is said that they have quite a large and strong force. Not only that, but their group leader is also very smart and resourceful. The male protagonist knows that his opponent has already taken action. So I want to ask when Na Mi sect will return to the main gate. Maybe I will temporarily stay here for a long time to see things, but I really don't want to see that expression at all. Having finished speaking, Sonha left and promised that if she often sleeps late, maybe we will meet tomorrow night or the next night to do a few things. The male lead didn't pay much attention, but right now he only remember who the person calling that junior sister is. If it was Jianghua's junior sister, then that person would definitely be Sol Ran. With her cold and dangerous personality in this capital, it's impossible to meet her one day. If Nam Ho San of Loi Am Mon suddenly dies, it will only cause chaos and tauntaun. In general, now that these two sects have begun to act, the male protagonist still has to stay still and consider the situation and think about it later. In his mind, he also remembered the scene where he killed him. What is that young master like? Each of the deadly moves given along with the ghost hammer is really similar to what the male master Wu Gunsang performed. There is no denying his talent and copying. Pyo Wol was able to do it because the way he used it was impossible to recognize. The Thunder Gate was heading towards Na Mi, so it was considered inevitable. They were trying to attack Na Mi. Try to strengthen your physical strength so that the enemy cannot gain the upper hand. So sooner or later we will know what Na Mi's revenge is like. If a member of this sect dies, the physical strength related to success will certainly be affected. Of course, neither of these two sects can do that and only Pyo Wol can do that. It can be done. The next morning, Chung Myong and his enemies went to check the crime scene. The master of the thunder sound was killed here, right? This room is filled with the smell of blood and sword slashes similar to those created by the 7-12 sword-breaking sword technique. It's more brutal than what I've seen before, but it's still clear. It's the sword technique of our sect. This is also true, but Chung Myong thinks it's very likely that someone disguised himself. I also want to think so, but in this case, outsiders don't know. How can anyone know the secret of martial arts classics that very few people can learn? To refute this statement, he said that a copy of the technique had been leaked before. No, that's so, but in that book, there is only sword consciousness. If it weren't for our sect's mind magic, it wouldn't be possible to reveal more than half of its power. Could it be that they have adjusted our martial arts or not? You know, if that's the case, it will be a little different, but we can slowly analyze it. Besides, in terms of performance, it's better to create a new martial art. Why, it's not very appropriate to draw conclusions at the scene, so why don't we try to find out where that killer hid to? In Chung Myong's mind, he also thought the same thing and had many more deeper thoughts. Could it be that he is the assassin that I met 7 years ago? Not sure if it's not because it's obvious it's been dead since that day. The thought is right, but making that thought come true is a very difficult thing. From early in the morning, according to his words, everything Tauntaun's disciples have all rushed to the capital to search. After checking the Golden Gate at the winery, we didn't see anyone suspicious. Trying to check things around, whatever has to happen has to happen. Right in front, the people of Na Mi sect have also faced each other. It can be said that both of these sects are like water and fire, so when they meet each other, they fight. From the failed marriage incident and also from hiring someone to assassinate Wu Gunsang, from 7 years ago until now, neither side has contacted the other side at all. As soon as they saw the person of Na Mi, the other disciples had also drawn their swords to prepare for action. Some thought that this sect was definitely attacking Tauntaun, so it needed to be dealt with immediately. However, a loud voice rang out asking to stop and not be rude. Chung Myong proactively walked towards where Zheng Hua was waiting. He still greeted politely and didn't want anything. Confronting everyone. You also came all the way down to this place to look for food. Why did you think that a crane was just hanging out in the mountains? So what about Monk Tai? What's so urgent about why he's here? Is just protecting your assets too much for you? It seems like you still have time to pay attention to other places, right? Feeling that the situation was not okay anymore, Sol hurriedly ran over to stop his senior sister from doing that again. It was too noisy. Tauntaun's people really did not. I can't ignore it. Did you know about the marriage between the young sect master of Loi Am and the master of Bok Hua Ward, so did you kill him? The Tauntaun faction is so wretched and has a personality that looks like it was thrown in the trash. It's terrible that you guys invested 7 years to kill our faction's prospects and still managed to show your face in the end. Where does that cruelty come from? Actually, the source of the problem was Go Hua hiring someone to kill Wu Gunsang, and Sol understood that best. The reason also stems from that, but they also did not expect the assassin to be able to kill such a strong target. That guy has died a long time ago, but we are all still being deceived by him. I don't even know the name of the assassin Sol, so I have countless vague thoughts about the male lead in my head. After daydreaming about that handsome face, I suddenly, however, this person with his senses discovered a special incident. Among the dozens of people passing by on the street, there seemed to be a cold gaze looking towards Seol Ran. She ignored the fact that her sister was arguing with Tonton's disciple to look for that mysterious person. She kept looking but couldn't figure out who was the most suspicious person. Could it be that she was mistaken? Or is it a wrong guess? Just like that, the crowd continued to gather more and wanted to learn about Na Mi and Tonton. Not far away, a dark shadow was lurking around without even knowing it. What purpose is he having? It's not a stranger, that person is Pyo Wol. Having just met an old acquaintance from the past, he thinks that Seol Ran's feelings are really good, right? If you want to ignite the spark, you need to have the right seed now that each of the key characters has appeared. This is not a bad start for me, right? It turns out Tontons and Na Mi facing each other on the street could very well be the male lead's plan. That night Pyo Wol went to look for Ranju according to what he said when saying goodbye at the edge of the capital. Look, when she saw the true love of her heart, she seemed very sobbing. Where have you been? You've only come to see me now. You've been waiting for a long time. It's not surprising, but I'm quite curious about you. Follow this woman. They both made an appointment to meet, but the male lead only thought it would be a private meeting and not the group leader. It's so frustrating to be able to do good things with Ranju. I know there was a distinguished guest coming, so Jang Meryong had prepared a table to entertain Pyo Wol. I heard that you have been meeting for a long time, it must be predestined for us to have a meal together. Before saying after that introduction, the male lead realized that this person was the leader of the Black Cloud group. Our Ranju was quite interested in him, so I really wanted to meet him once and see. The prince's power is truly something that cannot be underestimated. Even though he wears extremely splendid clothes and appearance, he still cannot hide his incomparably strong aura. Looking like this, of course, it is difficult to hide it, but it is only necessary to just revealing a little bit is enough to see that the young man is not ordinary at all. Ranju looked at the group leader's place and expressed admiration that what I said was right. He is not ordinary at all. Both of them flattered each other at this point, but Jang Meryong also clearly showed his intention that he really wanted the male lead to join the Black Cloud group. It turned out that they used the guise of a beautiful woman to lure him in. To everyone, we may be a bunch of romantics gathered together, but I still cherish a dream. To be recognized and become a sect, we can do that. I always want to recruit talented people. Jang Meryong's request for a large piece of land with Na Mi is also part of that plan. If you want, I'm willing to let Ranju be your maid. You are the quietest person. Go knows exactly how his teammates are and is also secretly guessing. That kid shouldn't have said that, but he seems to like him already. After taking a sip of wine, he tried to stay calm to see what Pyo Wol's answer was. If for a normal person, this would be great, but for the male lead, he refused with the reason that he didn't see anything special. This was a rather surprising answer, causing Taoist Go to spoil today's fun. Please forgive me, I suddenly choked on my food. Everyone, just keep talking. Perhaps the most dissatisfied person is Ranju because she had to work so hard to plan like this and still couldn't seduce the perfect man. That beauty. Also from that action, the atmosphere was so dark that both sides could no longer express their thoughts. It's a pity because you still haven't seen Black Van's things. How attractive is the army? If that's the case, is there anything that doesn't please the young man? Joining our army is not pleasing to Ranju's eyes. Pyo Wol said. For both of those reasons, if you eat something that makes you sick to your stomach, it's better not to touch your chopsticks. In general, this saying is quite implicit because it also includes blaming that beautiful woman. My whole life with that beauty, Ranju has never been rejected by any man. Go is the one who always follows her and today was quite surprised to see a person who gave up such good conditions like that. So, no one said anything anymore and perhaps everything has come to a dead end. Suddenly, the group leader groaned with a very incomprehensible smile, causing all three to widen their eyes and follow. To cover his embarrassment, he said that I was just joking. Why are you all so stupid? Show such a serious face. Finally, he slammed the table and chairs and stood up, looking straight at Pyo Wol. No matter how much I want you to join, I can give Ranju to you. This child is my cherished treasure. I advise you that if you want your master to do anything, do not touch our Black Cloud group. I am a person who speaks quite softly, but others are very aggressive. In general, this is a threatening statement and that is not good at all. Pyo Wol received that statement, then you also actively want to respond. What if one day you are leisurely walking on the street and suddenly your head separates from your body? If you think it was me who did it, it's not wrong. Actually, this statement is no different from a declaration of war because the Black Cloud group itself threatened them in advance. If they had a better attitude, then surely there will also be no such words. After saying those careless words, the male lead smiled just like Jang Meryong. I was just joking, why are you acting like this? Is that such a serious face? It's true that no one is willing to give in to anyone else. If this happens, both sides will become enemies. Meanwhile, in Chung Myong's office. Maybe he is enjoying a very high position, which took many years of hard work to get. After investigating the situation, the junior brother also returned and reported everything. Before the war, the head of the sect assigned him to be who went to gather information about the entire situation regarding MA and the sects on their side. After watching very carefully and only seeing the disciples of MA and Bok Ward and not is there any more movement? To prevent everything, I have installed a few hidden disciples around that place to make sure. We must quickly find the murderer who killed our little sect master. Loi M. Mon too, if we can do it, the situation will be clear. Until then we can find a solution. Speaking of this, the junior brother wants to find the ignoble clan, at least they know clearly what is going on. Movements in underground factions around here. Surely they will know who approached Loi Yin Mon that day in Sichuan. They have their eyes and ears everywhere. It's true. So the Ignore clan is known as a clan of a political faction. However, unlike a political faction, to do business with this force requires a lot of money. Everything is too important. With success, Chung Myong was not afraid of the expense but asked his junior brother to do it immediately. He understood that if he worked with the ignoble clan, there would definitely be more sects involved in this. I think. Currently there are 3 sects of Thundersound, Kim Suyen and Bok Fuang. If we don't quickly catch that assassin, I'm afraid the consequences will be very unpredictable. At the same time then at the inn where the male protagonist rented to stay. With his special appearance and strange personality, he is also a target for others to spy on. Obviously I have confirmed that there is a people, but why is there no movement? Even though that Pyo Wol guy knows he is not an ordinary person, he is not that bad. Could it be that he has reached the ghost realm? Are you able to hide your breath? Having said that, this guy also left and immediately opened the window to give a signal to other teammates. From above the roof opposite in front of you, there was a man. Some people are also waiting for an answer. It's not clear what force this group of people belongs to, but it seems they are also very interested in the male lead. As soon as they received that information, one person immediately disappeared and went to spread the news. After that, the other guy also went to meet his boss to report. The other side confirmed that the other side had no movements last night. My lord, the sun is almost up, I will send someone closer to monitor him. It turns out it was also a member of the Black Cloud group, and this time Yang Wu Jung directly sent someone to follow him. Male assassin. Our group leader seemed to pay quite a bit of attention to him, but he didn't leave his sight even for a moment, having to keep an eye on every door and every cave. Hearing that order, his subordinates immediately understood and left immediately. Having temporarily completed something to help the group leader, Wu Jung sighed again tiredly. He continued filming, returned to the work of calculating the steps to attack the Tan sect. There are up to 3 main gates that need to be destroyed to be able to break in or directly enter that sect. The gates. This citadel is not part of the Black Cloud group's territory. If you want 200 horsemen to rush in, you need to lead them all around the foot of the mountain. Perhaps the deputy group leader is calculating what to do so as not to affect and loss to their own forces in the least way. So Na Mi's side has officially proactively prepared to launch this war first. Perhaps this sect also only has the Black Cloud force. It's just that the big group is standing on our side. I don't know why, but suddenly the deputy leader became more careful and released many of his darts all around the room. It stuck strongly, up to positions on the roof as if someone was watching. However, after looking around for a while, there was no problem at all. In Wu Jung's mind, he thought it was himself. Is it too sensitive? Obviously I had the feeling that someone was looking at me just now, or was it because I was so stressed that I was wrong? It's probably not a mistake because of my age. The child may not be old, but in fact Pyo Wol is also here. As a high-class assassin, how could he let this person find out? Also not sure about today's purpose. What is the point of going into the Vice Union leader's study room? Part of it is to find out information about the Black Cloud Group as well as everything related to Zhang Meryang. That night at Bok Hwa Ward, a short conversation between Zheng Hua and Sol ran.